Hey, what's up everybody? It's Jared with State of Tech, and I have the top 5 reasons to buy a Google Pixel XL in 2017. Now, this phone has been out for almost a half of a year now, and it's still a fantastic phone. People are comparing this phone to phones that are just now coming out in 2017, such as the Galaxy S8, the LG G6, and the HTC U Ultra, which are supposedly bleeding edge new releases, whereas they are still being compared to this guy, the Google Pixel XL. Now, I bought this phone right when it first came out. I pre-ordered it, got it, loved it. It was my main phone for a long time until recently, playing with the iPhone a little bit more again, which I always have teetered back and forth between iPhone and Android. But this phone is just fantastic, and I have some good reasons as to why you would want to choose this phone as opposed to another version of an Android phone here in early 2017. So let's talk about some of the first reasons. The first and foremost important one, I think, is bleeding edge Android. That means that you're going to get the software updates first because it's Google. It's Google's phone. Google is Android. Android is Google. And they roll out all of the latest updates to the phone first. And just in years past, it continues to show that pretty much all Android manufacturers do not stay as up to date with those software updates as Google does with their own phones. Even with the Nexus phones that came prior, they were always up to date all the time. Google every month releases a update patch that includes security fixes, sometimes new features and stuff like that. And so every month you're getting software updates. And with Android phones, a lot of times they're carrier locked, meaning they're locked to your AT&T or Verizon or whatnot. Software updates don't get pushed out as fast because they've got to be updated and approved and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it just creates there's just a lot of bureaucracy there in place to keep the updates from happening. And even then, on top of that, and most importantly, I think, is that this phone here, this Google Pixel XL, is going to get software updates for years to come. Eventually, they'll phase it out, of course, like most phones. But with the majority of phones that are out there, like your Samsung, your LG, your HTCs, those phones only get software updates for a while before they stop getting the latest software updates. Of course, Samsung did just give their Galaxy S7 series phones the latest version of Android. But will they get Android 8 or whatever the next major version of Android is? I really don't think so. And even then, it took 8 months or so after the public release of Android 7 for those phones to get it. Whereas phones like this have had it for months and months. And it's just, if you want the latest Android, you're gonna have to go with a Google Pixel XL or regular Google Pixel. It's just the only way to get it. The camera is amazing. That's the second thing. The camera is amazing in this phone. The Nexus phones weren't really known for their good cameras. Google stepped it up big time when they had this phone put together. It has an amazing camera that's actually flush mount with the back of the body. I mean, that's a huge thing. Most cameras have bulges, or phones have bulges for their cameras, and it's just a real bummer. This phone is flush, and it has one of the best cameras on the market. I would say even slightly better than the iPhone 7's camera. And so if you want top-notch camera performance here in 2017, this is where you're going to get it. The Galaxy S8 that's coming out now doesn't have any better of a camera than last year. The LG G6 camera is good, but it's not really any better than previous versions. The HTC U Ultra camera is great, but it's not much better, if at all better, than the camera that's in this phone. And this phone's camera and the phone itself came out last year. So you're getting top-notch quality stuff in a phone like this, and getting what I mentioned in the first step, the first reason, which is bleeding edge Android. Ergonomics is also super important. Now, I do have a case on this phone. It's a very slim case, but even with the case on this phone, it's fantastically ergonomic and great to hold. The size of the phone is fantastic. Yes, it has a bit of a bezel on it, a bit of a forehead and a chin down below, but it's a great phone. It really feels great in the hand. I mean, I do have a bigger hand, so maybe if you don't have as large of a hand as I do, you might want to go with the regular Google Pixel, but it's a great size of a phone. It's not too big. It's slightly smaller than the iPhone 7 Plus, and it's easy to use this phone all day long without cramping up your hand or anything like that. It's just a great size of phone. And everybody says about phones, oh, it feels good in the hand, blah, 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 blah. But the placement of the fingerprint scanner on the back means that you're not having to contort the phone in your hand to unlock it. You hold the phone naturally. Your thumb is in place for, the lock button or the volume, and you just tap and then you're in, and it's just so much better of an experience in the way that this is set up. They really spent time seeing and understanding how people are going to use their phones and built a phone that matches that. Reason number 4 is the display. Now, display, in my opinion, the quality is measured in a couple different ways. Number 1 is the native resolution of the display, and number 2 is the pixels per inch, or the PPI. Now, the pixels per inch is important because that's how much detail you're going to get out of the phone's display. And this varies across pretty much every single phone. The iPhone has a really good screen on it, but it has always been known to be kind of lower on the pixel depth, which is the PPI. Now, the pixel depth on this phone is 534 PPI, which is extremely high. A lot of the phones that are coming out this year are in the 400s, not even really that high in comparison to the Google Pixel XL. Google, when they built this phone and designed this phone, they wanted it to not only be a good phone when it came out, but also be a good phone for the entire year that it was its first year on the market. And that's why people are continuously comparing this phone to phones that are coming out in 2017, because this phone holds its own. It has a 2560 by 1440 resolution, which is fantastic. There are 4K phones coming out, but I don't really think that that's important. I would rather have this resolution. To be honest, I would even rather have a HD, like a 1080p resolution with a higher PPI than have a 4K resolution that would have to be a lower PPI, because, those screens start to eat battery life, and you've got to have a phone that has decent battery life. And with the Pixel XL, that's a given. It's not even a thing that I even have to bring up in this video, because the battery life is fantastic, and it's just not even a question. Even though it has extremely depth on the PPI, 534 PPI. And so when you're looking at the display, you're just seeing just beautiful. You're not seeing pixels at all because they're so tightly packed together. You're not seeing, the rendering of anything. I mean, it's all perfect, like it was made there, like it was indistinguishable of the individual little pixels, which we've all seen before when we look at displays, when we watch things on our TV, when you zoom in too far on your phone to something and something starts to fall apart. Like, you're going to get every little bit of detail, especially when you're reading text and looking at stuff like that. It's just fantastic. So the last, number 5, is storage options. On Android, you typically don't get storage options when you buy a lot of other phones. A lot of manufacturers either stick you with a storage option and don't give you any expandable storage, or they stick you with one storage option and give you the option to put an SD card in the phone. Now, while I would rather have an SD card than not have options at all, the SD card just isn't always the best solution. I mean, you have to really think to use the SD card. It just doesn't become a native storage option in your phone like having actual storage. And with this phone, you can get up to 128 gigs of storage, and that's a lot of storage for a phone. So you can store photos, videos, music, all that good stuff on your device and have it natively ready even when your internet connection is not working. And yes, you can do that with a smaller storage phone and use the SD card, but the SD card, like I said again, becomes one more thing that you have to worry about, one more thing that you have to think about. It's not native storage inside the phone, so you have to do some workarounds to actually get things to write to the SD card and take advantage of that storage. It's very easy to run out of storage on an Android phone, even though you have a giant SD card inside of it. It really takes some configuration or configuring your phone in order to fully take advantage of an SD card in your phone. So if you're like me and you like a little bit extra storage, you get those options, you have them available to you. Or if you don't store a lot of stuff on your phone, you are well into using cloud storage, you stream all your music, your movies, and all that other stuff, and your phone just basically has apps and nothing else on it, you can get a smaller storage option and not have to cash out those large amounts for higher end storage devices, and then of course even go and buy an SD card, which SD card prices are pretty low, but still it can be expensive. So sure, you can't put an SD card in this phone, but at least you get storage options natively, which is still a better option than having to buy SD card for your phone and try and figure out how that works. So the Google Pixel XL this year is an important phone here in 2017 because it's the standard for Android, and Google set that this year. In the past, it's always fallen short in one way or another, with the phone either being a monster or the display not being that great or the camera not being that great. Something was always amiss, but this year, or in 2016, they got it absolutely right with the Pixel and Pixel XL, and this is a phone that is going to be the gold standard for Android all the way through the rest of this year until Google releases an updated version of it. So in 2017, here in early in the year, it's still a very good buy. It's an excellent Android phone to get, and all of those reasons that I mentioned before are fantastic reasons why you would want to choose this over some shiny new object that comes out here in early 2017. So that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for checking it out, and make sure to subscribe to our channel here on State of Tech so that you can get updates when we put out our new videos. There are links in the description below to these phones and maybe a few accessories, including the case that I use, so that you can check them out should you be interested. We hope to have you back on another video here. Thanks for checking it out, and if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, make them in the comment section below, and we'll see you next time here on State of Tech. Thanks a lot.